Political comedy, bro. Okay, this is kind of relates to the news, but also doesn't because, politics. We talk about politics on this show. I feel like I'm a relatively well-versed 21-year-old when it comes to his politics. Listen, I think The Daily Show, Saturday Night Live, all of these late night shows have really slipped the last year. I think they've slipped. Hold on one second. But Anuj, what do you mean by slipped? Good question. Let me explain this. Donald Trump was elected president way back in 2016. Of course, everybody knows that. When Trump was elected president, all of a sudden, The Daily Show, SNL, Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon started to become amongst some of the most popular shows on television. They became like the shit. They were political comedy. Donald Trump was our president. Ha ha ha. Everything is so funny. The jokes were practically being written based on the fact that Trump would say outlandish stuff every day. And the writers would just have to write that stuff down and write a funny reaction quote to that. And suddenly that thing had 6.5 million views in a matter of 3 hours because everybody hated Donald Trump, particularly in the kind of left echo chamber that late night TV exists in. But now we have a Democratic president in office, Joe Biden, and a Democratic vice president, and Democratic control of the Senate, and Democratic control of the House. And suddenly, those same people who were, constantly berating Donald Trump, berating Mike Pence, berating Republican officials. I'm not defending Republicans by any means, but these are the same people who were berating them on late night TV are now silent. There's no jokes about Joe Biden. I don't see any clips going viral about making fun of his decisions in Afghanistan or the various things that he's doing. You know why? Because let's face it, most of late night TV, most of the TV that we see, the media, when it comes to political comedy and satire, is very much based in the left. It's very much left-leaning bias. And so they make fun of a lot of conservatives. And this was a thought that I had in my head. It was circulating. And I was like, finally, like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do some research. So I'm going to share my research in a second. But, dude, here's the thing. I've noticed this particularly with The Daily Show because they're really focused in political comedy. I feel like SNL kind of has that out with political comedy because they focus on America as a whole, so they can kind of, get out of it by making fun of celebrities and various other pop culture trends and inside stuff like that. But like The Daily Show has no excuse. They are built for political satire. Jon Stewart, the political satire legend, made fun of every president, regardless of political affiliation, for 25 years, and then he retired, right? And he left it on top. And there's a reason why The Daily Show has struggled. Trevor Noah kept his job at The Daily Show for one reason and one reason only, and that's Donald Trump. Hottest take of the year. Trevor Noah is really literally employed because of a man by the name of Donald J. Trump. And he's the guy that he would make fun of on a daily basis, and Trevor Noah was employed because of him. The Daily Show ratings since Jon Stewart left have dropped 37 to 40% year over year. That is a crazy drop. And listen, I'm not going to be someone who's like, oh, yeah, they dropped because Trevor sucks. No, Jon Stewart was a fucking legend. Okay, like Republicans watched him, Democrats watched him, moderates watched him. He was great. Jon Stewart is a legend in comedy and in political satire. And there's nothing you can say that is going to make me believe otherwise. He is so good. And so, yes, you have to expect a pretty steep drop when you bring in a new host, particularly from South Africa, that no one really knew at the time on the mainstream level in Trevor Noah. But you bring in Trevor Noah, and it's been 2 years, 3 years, and the ratings still continue to drop, and they still continue to be at a negative like this. Yeah, sure, the first year, yeah, you can give them a pass. First 2 years even. But even during the Trump presidency, the ratings were down constantly. Can we please face the simple reality? And I have faced this reality before. I don't think Trevor Noah is that funny. I don't think Trevor Noah is that good, and I think he's one of the more overrated comedians that we have today. I mean, okay, look, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He took over after Jon Stewart, and he did a decent job for about a year when President Trump was in office, right? When Donald Trump was in office. Then he did a pretty okay job, had a few clips go viral here and there, and he was good with that. But since then, Noah has struggled. Trevor Noah has struggled to replace Jon Stewart. There is no ifs, ands, or doubts about it. He has struggled. And I don't know what Comedy Central is doing, continuing to keep him. They had him in his apartment for hella long. Now they have him in the studio. There's like no studio audience. It's not funny. It's just tremendously like, it's just a very, like, it just feels, it's just very weird. It's very weird. Trevor Noah is just not funny anymore. It's he was. I don't even think he was that funny before. I'm not saying Trevor Noah's not talented. Trevor Noah's extremely talented. Okay, don't get me wrong. He's very talented in other areas. He's written this beautiful book about his life. It's called Born a Crime. I highly recommend if you haven't read it. It's supposed to be turned into a movie. Apparently, there's a audio book that also goes along with it, and I've heard is incredible. And I've read the physical book. It's a really, really good book. You should definitely read Born a Crime. It is so good. And he's a great writer, and I'm sure, and he's really great at explaining things. Like I've seen him in interviews and in podcasts, and he's very well spoken in other areas. So I can see why they gave him the hosting gig, but he's not that funny anymore. But like, honestly though, like, why is he still like, why is he still with the Daily Show? But that's not the point. Okay. Why can't conservatives though make liberal satire? Is that not a thing? Can we not have that in society? Is that just something that's not widely accepted? Apparently not, because the left gets to make fun of the right, but the right never gets to make fun of the left, particularly in a mainstream sort of context. I know there's like one kind of sort of Daily Show esque type thing on Fox News, but Fox News has taken such a bad L and rap over the last, whatever it is, 4.5 years, that nobody gives a shit. No one's going to go to Fox News and turn on conservative satire, particularly if you're on the left, because you're just going to think, oh, it's Fox News. It's filled with fake news, because that's the society we live in. We need to find, like, I don't know if there's a way to, like, sort of combine the liberal and the conservative and find, like, a middle ground. I don't know if we can find that now, but, it would be interesting to have that. But, that's the society we live in. But there is material, like, the thing is, like, none of these late night show hosts, I feel like the writers are lazy. And, like, I don't like saying that because, like, they obviously are hardworking people and they have to put together shows every day and Daily Show and SNL and all this stuff. But, like, dude, the jokes were right in front of them for Donald Trump. Everything was right there. For Joe Biden, like, it's there too. This dude is an idiot. Like, I'm sure, like, okay, I don't mean to say that Biden's an idiot, but, like, he's just not like the most, like, he's kind of a fool. Okay, him and Kamala Harris both, they're a little wacky in their own ways. Like, you can definitely find ways to poke fun at them for a TV audience. Like, that's kind of funny. Okay, but they don't do it. And actually, there's evidence to do this. I was reading about this article. I read a few articles this morning about how late night TV kind of refuses to attack sort of the Democratic administration. And here's a quote, kind of from that Harvard article. I'm quoting articles now, Jesus Christ. But it says Fallon and Colbert told twice as many jokes about Trump than Biden, according to Farnsworth and Lichter's analysis. And even when the late night comics are not excoriating Trump himself, Trumpian figures, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we've talked about, and Matt Gaetz, who even had a recurring segment on the Late Show titled Gates Gate, and it faced a barrage from late night. So it's clear, okay? Late night is obviously just trending towards finding very conservative figures that they can make fun of, but they'd refuse to make fun of the guy who's the president of the United States that's basically done absolutely nothing. I think that's the funniest part, is Joe Biden has done nothing. You can make so much fun of that, right? Like, he had this huge grand plan for his agenda, but he's accomplished none of it, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And I think, like, honestly, why we don't see more of like a moderate bias on late night and on the Daily Show, and how it seems to be so highly politicized, even when it comes to like political satire and the humor, is because the writers are liberal. Okay, the comics are liberal, and it's not their fault. It's because, like, I mean, is it their fault? Not really. I mean, they got hired by the show. Like, I feel like the shows are just hiring liberal people because I guess mainstream media and Hollywood itself tends to naturally be more progressive. I would like to see more conservative comedies out there. I personally would approve of that. There was this show called The Middle on what was it, ABC or something. ABC ran for like 7, 8 seasons. And it wasn't like a political show. It's a sitcom. It's about a family who lives in middle class America who works blue collar jobs. And I think it's fucking hilarious. I think it's so funny. I think it's that type of representation that maybe is lacking in media. And I know people are going to be like, you're saying there's white people that lack representation? What the fuck is wrong with you? No, what I'm trying to say, sorry, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like there needs to be more representation of conservative or being conservative, of being, whether it be socially conservative, whether it be economically conservative, whatever that may be. I think there needs to be more conservatives in the media, and there needs to be more jokes dedicated to that conservative kind of group of people. I'm not saying, and you can't just sit here and tell me, like, you can't be like, the counter argument to that is like, oh, conservative jokes are just like making fun of like basic human rights. No, dude, like it's just so much. I feel like there's more nuanced humor. Maybe with Joe Biden, the humor isn't as obvious. You just have to go looking for it. But I think that should be the job of these comics. That's why you get paid, the big bucks to write for these shows. It's to make it funny, and it's to find the jokes that no one else will. But I mean, that leads to like a whole thing of like, do these networks censor and all this stuff? But whatever. That's a whole separate conversation. Another piece of evidence. I mean, I would just like to balance the scales a little bit. Let's put in some more conservative comedians in the writers' room, right? Come on. Harvard says, and I think this was an interesting thing. And the Harvard article that I was reading kind of said this. They said conservatism at heart involves respect for governmental institution, whereas the left kind of is more associated with destroying systems, which is fair. Okay, I guess like conservatism definitely does have more respect for governmental officials and all, and like the process and the structure, which is ironic because Donald Trump had zero respect for anything when he was, part of the Republican Party. But I think there you can find a balance, is my point, with humor, particularly in late night and all of that stuff. I think there is a way that you can find a compromise between the two sides, and include jokes that are kind of appropriate for both sides of the political aisle, instead of politically polarizing your shows to being more left oriented, or so on or so forth. But I think that's just a partisan society we live in, unfortunately. And even comedy has to be fucking political these days. Jesus. I feel like that's what I liked about Stewart, is he attacked both sides. It wasn't just the left. It wasn't just the right. He would shit on the left too. Like he did a great job of political satire during the Obama administration. Like his ratings didn't go down. Like it's all there. It's statistics. But I can tell you this: I think Colbert and Myers and Kimmel and Trevor Noah are secretly hoping that Donald Trump runs again in 2024, because they just have the man to write all their jokes for them. They don't have to do any work. Oh, they're like, okay, writers, just write a joke and we'll just funnily react to it. Everybody, late night TV is hoping and praying that Donald Trump runs in 2024 so that they can just, have their humor written for them. I'm telling you, that's my theory about all this. His outlandish nature, Donald Trump just being out of pocket, as the kids say these days, will just write the story itself. But that's the truth that no one wants to say in late night TV. Late night TV is just, everybody in late night wants Donald Trump to run again. Not to win, but to run again, because then they can just make fun of him endlessly. And that's what Hollywood really wants.